Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 2020 Fall Faculty Meeting. We're delighted to have you here today virtually. We'll be using Zoom webinar this morning, and it works a little bit differently than the normal Zoom you may be accustomed with. Guests are automatically muted, and please use the chat feature if you have any questions. This session is being recorded. If you're staying for our academic town hall session, you will use this same link, so there's no reason to disconnect. I'd like to thank you and our panelists for their participation this morning. Now, I would like to welcome our first presenter, Chancellor Dr. Higdon.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be with you today. I enjoyed doing the same welcome for the adjuncts on Saturday, and I'm welcoming you back to quite an unusual year. This is my 29th year in higher education, and I can't think of another one like it. I want to begin by really thanking all of you for the terrific work that occurred. If you think about it, we closed March the 13th. We pivoted to online. Frankly, we did it better than anybody else because of the prior work you all had done to get ready for online. And then we took care of technical students, we took care of lab students, we took care of allied health students, and we got them through the semester. We were 99% online this summer. Saw quite an increase, and now we're ready for fall. Looking at the numbers this morning, we're going to have, for the first time in the history of OTC, instead of the Springfield campus being our largest campus, online is now our largest campus. So we will have more students online than we will have seated in Springfield. People are voting with their feet, so to speak, and we're really having a large online presence. Matt Simpson tells me yesterday most of the new enrollments were online. I think as we are watching these schools around the country, these universities struggle, like Notre Dame, University of North Carolina, Michigan State, and we're watching what's happening at Missouri State, what will be happening at Drury, and what will be happening in Evangel. We're probably going to be in a position where we may even pick up more students through the end of this week and then in our 14 weeks. What I'm going to ask everyone to do this year is, number one, show appreciation to each other for being here, show appreciation to our students, show appreciation to our community. Also, show grace, and I know that's a phrase that Dr. McGrady's been using, but give everybody a break. If someone comes hopping out of their office for 5 minutes and forgets their mask, remind them to wear the mask, but don't be a jerk about it. Show compassion. We have students that are struggling. We have faculty that are struggling. We have staff that are struggling. This is a hard psychological issue for some people. We have people who've lost family members. We have loose people who have at-risk family members. And then the last thing I would do is ask you to show patience. Patience for yourself, for your students, for the college, and for each other. That being said, I did a video for the community the other day where they asked me what we wanted, and the last thing I said is I wanted our students, when they come back, to do all those things, and also just don't be stupid. We see people out partying downtown. We see people congregating without masks. And that brings to my main point is we are having a zero tolerance for lack of masking. It's important for all of you to know that while the city of Springfield has a masking ordinance, our other communities do not. The city of Springfield ordinance has a lot of holes in it, particularly for masking if you don't feel comfortable or you have claustrophobia or you have an illness. If you come to campus and you enter a building and you do not have a mask, you will be asked to put a mask on. If you will not mask, you'll be asked to leave. We don't want that burden to fall just on our faculty. Frankly, we hope to intercept them before they get to your class without a mask. If they get to your class without a mask, ask them to leave and take the appropriate steps. Over my shoulder, you can see a blue bag of candy. We're going to be giving out candy and masks at the same time next week. The administration and staff are going to be doing what we usually do, which is telling people how to get to class, but we're also going to be the mask police. Security will be available. I want you to remember that there are people with political agendas on all sides, and one of those agendas might be to try to show up without a mask, make a statement about their rights, and then try to goad you into saying something nasty or mean or being belligerent. And I got a laugh out of a group last week by quoting the movie with Patrick Swayze, where he is a bouncer, Roadhouse, and he keeps saying, move the person out, but be nice. Escort them out, be nice. What I would say is be firm, be nice, don't be goaded. This is not a political issue. Anybody who says it is, if you saw my Facebook this morning, I posted about a good friend of mine, Tom Osmond. His wife, Lee, died during the night last night, 54 years old, from COVID. It affects people of all ages. She was a healthy, married mother of two. Tom got the COVID, had sniffles. Within 24 hours, she was on a ventilator, and after 20 days, passed away last night. So don't let anybody goad you into making this a political discussion. It's not. We don't do politics. We do education. Thank you for all you do in normal years, but especially thank you this year. We have worked every hour almost since March 13th to get ready. Everyone from administration to faculty to staff, buildings and grounds, everyone has worked. Many have not taken vacation. Many have not taken family time. The stress level is high, but what we do is important. Remember, we're moving people forward in life, and especially those students that are the most vulnerable need our help. So again, be patient with yourself, be patient with your colleagues, be patient with our students. Let's have a great semester, and I look forward to having the days where we have in-person meetings again, but it's not so bad doing these Zoom meetings, cuts down a lot of travel. So thank you and have a great semester.
Thank you, Dr. Higdon. I would now like to welcome to the podium Tracy McGrady.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the fall 2020 semester here at OTC. And I'd like to start by saying out loud what I think we're all thinking, and that is this is going to be a really weird semester. I'll be honest, I'm a little bummed out this morning because I always look forward to seeing all of you in Lincoln, standing out in the hallway and seeing you all kind of file in and visiting and catching up with people that maybe I haven't seen since commencement. And I think this is just yet another reminder of what this virus has taken from us. At its worst, as Dr. Higdon mentioned, with his friend's experience, it's taken people that we love. And at its best, it's taken us away from our comfortable routines and our celebrations and each other. It has separated us, it's confined us, it's kept us in what seems like a never-ending holding pattern. But as with any adversity, it's also challenged us to grow and to be better. And we've all heard the phrase, never let a crisis go to waste. And I'm proud to say that at OTC, we have not let this crisis go to waste. I'm very proud of the growth we've experienced together. We've had the pleasure, I think, of being kind of amazed by our own ingenuity at times. We've embraced alternate ways of connecting with students and with each other. We have developed kind of a new understanding and a new awareness of our own limits as educators, and we've kind of had the pleasure, I think, of stretching those limits and realizing that maybe the limits that we had previously aren't limits after all. I think it's caused us to grow and to just get really comfortable with being uncomfortable. And, you know, we've always at OTC prided ourselves on our agility and our adaptability, and I think now we can add flexibility to that resume as well. So keep that flexibility throughout this semester. We're all going to need it. It's going to be really important. I think another good thing that the pandemic has brought, and this is just kind of for me personally, is that I've also developed an even deeper appreciation for what it means to do the work that we do. How fortunate, and I think this sometimes on the hardest days, the long days, the 12-hour days, how fortunate it is that the work we do is so consequential in people's lives. And it's kind of a double-edged sword because that also carries with it a lot of responsibility. I know we're all anxious about this semester and approaching it with some trepidation. Those anxieties are certainly not unfounded. But I think, as Dr. Higdon also said, what we have to offer can't wait. There is an urgency to it, and I think probably more so now than ever. I've been, over the last few weeks, I keep kind of returning to a quote that I read once that was attributed to Victor Hugo that says, "He who opens a school door closes a prison." That can be taken literally, of course, but I think there's also a lot of metaphorical meaning to that. I want you to think about your students and think about them each individually this semester. What are the prisons that they are locked in? Poverty, bigotry, low self-worth, small thinking. As of this morning, we have over 10,000 students who are clamoring at our school door, and they're looking for a way out of the prisons that confine them. There is tremendous purpose in what we do, and that purpose allows us to become more than who we are together. We need each other. Keep supporting each other. I have said this before, I will say it again and again and again. You have a hard job, all of you, but you also have an army of support behind you. We have been working and planning and doing our very best this summer to make the best decisions that we can and to hopefully relieve some of the burdens of this situation from faculty. Dr. Higdon said it, I won't belabor it, but yes, enforce mask wearing. Be kind but firm. Safety and security will be there to have your back. Report students with symptoms or who report to you that they are COVID positive. Our OTC Cares team will take it from there after you file that OTC Cares report. Talk to your students from day one about any remote learning options that you're making available to them. Over the summer, we have set up nearly 150 classrooms all across the system with Zoom capabilities to provide that flexibility for you and your students. If you're worried about a student academically, don't forget to submit that academic early alert report also through OTC Cares. Also, just so you're aware, we did a lot of calling campaigns back in the spring semester that I think were very well received by our students. We're continuing that through this semester as well. About the third week, we'll be doing a student wellness check calling campaign where we will reach out to every single one of our students to find out how they're doing. I know there are going to be things that we haven't thought of, and if you run across something that you feel like would be helpful to you in doing your job better, all you have to do is reach out. Reach out to your department chair, your program director, your dean, reach out to me. We are all here to support you, and we're all going to be here throughout the rest of the semester. So yes, it's going to be a weird one. It's going to be a challenge, and we will face a lot of tough situations this semester. But as we always do, we do it together. And as a result, we always emerge stronger. So with that, I'm going to end, and I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Megan Weaver. She joined us on July 1st as Dean of Academic Services, formerly at the Richwood Valley campus. So here's Megan.
Hi, so I wanted to provide a quick update on some of the services that we will have available for students this fall so that you can then pass that message along to your students. And our goal this semester is to meet students where they need us, whether that's physically present on campus, by appointment or by drop-in, or virtually. So we have lots of options for students. But I want to start with testing. So testing this summer, we changed to be appointment-based only, and we are going to continue that this fall. That will be the case, I think, at all campuses and centers, but we do have one testing services website that will get your students to each campus and center to their websites to be able to schedule those exams. So they can take tests in person if that's available for them, but if it's not, and your proctored event is an exam, we did change our ProctorU agreement to be institution pay. So students will not have to pay for that. So please let them know how that will work, and then potentially use that as an option for your proctored event. We would also encourage you to use other proctored events. So what we call alternative proctored events. We have different ways that you can do that. For example, students could do a consultation with our library staff. They could do that in person, or again, they could do that virtually. You might have them do a tutoring session. They could meet with a writing tutor, perhaps a study strategies tutor or a math tutor. Or they could do something like a Flipgrid assignment. And our Center for Academic Innovation has a lot of really good information for you on how to do different things like that. Our library, we have kind of a non-COVID update for you. So Missouri State left Mobius, which is our library consortium, which means that we and our students can no longer use their facility or their collection. But the really, really good news is that we still have access to a lot of resources. So we still have access to over 250,000 academic ebooks. So that's just ebooks alone. We also have a lot of print books from other Mobius institutions. So your students will still have access to as many resources as they need. We have also made a few changes to our database subscriptions to streamline things, make it easier for students to access. So if you do typically give students a link, you might just double check that to make sure that it's going where you want it to go. And then finally, I wanted to just reiterate and give you a resource for the mask mandate. So you may have students already who have asked you about this, and you may get this the first few days of classes. Students who let you know that they cannot wear a mask due to a disability. For those students, please do refer them to our Disability Support Services office. They are not going to give students an accommodation to not wear a mask in the classroom. What they will do is work with that student to try to figure out creative ways to give them access to their education. And that will probably include work with you to figure out what's the best, most efficient way for those students. So we look forward to working with all of you this fall semester, and please let me know how I can help you.
Thank you, Megan, for that update. Next, I would like to welcome virtually Matthew Simpson.
Thank you, Julie. Good morning, everyone. I got to talk with you today about our Higher Learning Commission accreditation. We are up for our 10-year site visit this academic year. It'll be occurring March 29th and 30th of 2021. And in the midst of a global pandemic is probably not the ideal time for an accreditation visit, but this is when we're having it. HLC recognizes that this is an unprecedented time. This is a different time, and there's still some uncertainty about kind of what the visit will look like. Through the end of this calendar year, they're still conducting their site visits virtually. Usually with one person locally kind of coming on site to meet the in-person requirement. It is still up in the air as to whether the visits will be conducted traditionally fully in person in the spring or the virtual format they're using now, or some hybrid. We've been talking with them about that and all the different options. We should know at some point during the fall semester, but we're preparing for an in-person visit. We're preparing for a virtual visit, a hybrid visit, whatever it ends up being. We'll be ready for it. They also know that this is the site visit is about the opportunity for us to show that we are doing the right things. We're doing what we should be and have been doing it for the past 10 years. But HLC also understands that we're doing things differently this year. We need to. For the sake of our students, for the sake of our employees, for the sake of our community. And so there will kind of be a bifurcated process where we're still providing traditional evidence, but there are additional forums that they are creating for site visits occurring this year, so we can show what our standard practices are and then separately show what we're doing right now to respond to the pandemic, to meet our mission to serve our students in this different time. And so we'll have the opportunity to demonstrate both. So what they're really looking for kind of when they're visiting is how we perform on the 5 criterion that they've established for participating institutions. And those criterion are first, our mission. Are we clearly articulated it, communicated it, and is it guiding our operations as an institution? The second being integrity, ethical, and responsible conduct. Are we acting with integrity? Do we have responsible, controls in place at the college? Are we acting ethically towards our students, towards our employees, and towards the communities that we serve in our day-to-day business? Criterions 3 and 4 focused around teaching and learning. Criterion 3 is quality, resources, and support. So are we providing students with a quality educational experience in every form, in every modality that we deliver classes to them? Criterion 4 focuses on evaluation and improvement. So are we looking at our students' performance? Are we looking at data and research to ensure that we are providing the students the most effective educational experience that we can, and making adjustments based on what we learn. And then finally, criterion 5 focuses on our institutional effectiveness, which is our resources and planning. Do we have the right resource allocations? Are resource allocations tied to our mission and our goals for our students? Are we doing planning for the future and using those plans to act on behalf of our students and the community? And I know that site visits can be scary. Accreditation oftentimes can be kind of a scary word, and sometimes our first response is, well, what do we need to do differently to show that to get through this process and get a good report? What I'd like to kind of use this to reassure everyone is that this is not something where we have to change how we're doing business, or should be changing how we're doing business to show that we're meeting these criteria. This is an opportunity for us to show the work that you all have been doing, that collectively the college has been doing, and how we have been meeting these criteria through our work. So this is kind of a chance to brag on ourselves. This is a chance to show the great things that we're doing and where we know that we are not as great as we should be, show that we are aware of that and that we're planning to improve on it. And so thank you all for the work you've done, in the last 10 years that has gotten us to this point, and for the important role you'll play in this process moving forward, and look forward to continuing to communicate with you as we move through this process. So thank you all.
Thank you, Matthew, for that HLC update. Next, I would like to welcome virtually Ocki Haas with HR, but first we're going to begin with a short video.
Of all the forces shaping politics and power around the world, perhaps none are more important than our sense of who we are and who we are becoming. We are in a period of accelerated change in at least 4 areas: globalization, technology, the environment, and demographic change. We can only process so much change in a short period of time without experiencing anxiety, which is a normal biological reaction. But how we respond to this anxiety is social. Our response is greatly shaped by the stories presented by leadership and through culture. These stories speak to our deepest values and our core beliefs about who we are, many of which operate at the subconscious level. We can respond to these changes either as a threat or as an opportunity. The first response is breaking. The second is bridging. Breaking can create a deep fear of other groups, making it easier to accept false stories of us versus them. Breaking perpetuates isolation, hardens racism, and builds oppressive systems, while driving our politics and institutions toward anti-democratic and inhumane practices. The other response is bridging, which calls on us to imagine a larger, more inclusive we. When we bridge, we see demographic change and our diverse identities as positive and enhancing who we are. Bridging calls on us to engage in healthy dialogue and requires us to listen deeply. Bridging does not mean abandoning your identity. Bridging means acknowledging our shared humanity, rejecting that there is a them, and moving toward a future where there is instead a new us. But when we bridge, we not only open up to others, we also open up to changes within ourselves, where we can participate in creating a society built on belonging.
"2020 certainly has been a year of rapid changes and some significant challenges to our way of life, social and economic climate in our communities and in our country as a whole. This video clip that you saw is where we want to be, a vision of where we want to be and how we want to get there. Some of our core values at OTC are inclusion, collaboration, accessibility, respect, personal and professional growth. All of these values aspire to have every person in our organization, including our students, to feel connected, belong, and valued. However, sometimes our unconscious biases, which we all have, keep us from fully living out those values we aspire to. There is a focus group of faculty and staff who's working with me on finding ways to dismantle those biases that keep us from understanding, accepting, and embracing those who are different than us. What you saw today is just a glimpse of what we're striving for, and there'll be more to come in terms of opportunities to learn and grow together as a college community. I appreciate the few minutes to share with you today, and welcome back. At this time, I'd like to invite Mr. Jonathan Herbert, who is an instructor in the Fine Arts, Theater, and Drama Department, to share a few words.
Thank you, Ocki. Good morning, everybody. According to recent studies, diverse communities perform better than non-diverse communities. So from a purely HR perspective, it's good to be proactive about increasing diversity. But diversity initiatives are often reactive and focus on the problem of discrimination. While it is important to reject discrimination, we must also embrace diversity. Furthermore, recent events tell us that we have a moral imperative to foster a culture of compassion and inclusion through dialogue. Dialogue is about listening and seeking to understand. It takes courage, humility, and patience. The world so desperately needs leadership in creating a culture of compassionate dialogue. Because of OTC's demonstrated excellence, we believe that we are well positioned to model this kind of leadership. And so on behalf of this committee, we invite you to join us in stepping up our efforts in this work. Thanks.
Thank you, Ocki and John. Up next is Andrew Goodall with the Student Success Redesign update.
Thank you, Julie. Good morning, everyone. I hope that you all are doing well. I really appreciate the time that I have, just a couple of minutes to share an update about student success. We have been working feverishly, as you all have and as everyone has, the past 6 to 7 weeks to prepare to launch our student success teams at every OTC location. It's Lebanon, Waynesville, Republic, Table Rock, Richwood Valley, and 8 programs in technical education. You know, as I listen to Dr. Higdon, to Dr. McGrady share, it really kind of dawns on me that now is, even given all of our constraints and challenges, a perfect time to launch student success at OTC. And the reason I believe it's a perfect time is that it really gives us the opportunity to provide that holistic, personalized support that students so desperately need in a time when they have so many other things going on in their lives that are barriers and challenges to them continuing and pursuing their academic goals. The goal of student success is to provide that one-stop shop for students to receive academic advising, to receive assistance and support in their financial planning, as well as career readiness and career planning. Students are building meaningful relationships and having meaningful interactions with their college navigator, with their student success specialists, and the other staff that are there to support them in achieving their academic goals. And so as life gets complicated, as life happens, those student success teams will be the point people for students to reach out to. And students will have a structured, scheduled environment in which the staff of student success are anticipating and proactively ensuring that students have everything in place that they need to be able to go to class, do their assignments, and succeed in achieving their academic goals at OTC. When we talk about students being resilient, there are three things in particular that student success teams are going to work to build with our students, and that is their motivation, so that even given circumstances and challenges that threaten to derail their progress, they have the motivation and the confidence and the resilience to continue doing their work, to persisting through their classes, persisting through the semesters, pivots, adjustments notwithstanding, that these student success teams are there with the students on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, supporting them academically, non-academically, and doing the necessary referrals and the necessary support so that our students continue to move through regardless of the circumstances that we can't control. We're going to do what we can to control the ones we can. I really want to just take this first opportunity to, before classes begin, just to reiterate that it is our goal for our student success teams to be a resource for you all. You all are building meaningful relationships and have them already with all of our students. And we want to be that resource, that bridge to collaborate with you, to continue to learn what we need to do and what we can do differently, how we can adjust and pivot to make sure that we are meeting the needs of our students in ways that are helpful and collaborative to the work that you're doing in the classroom. Our long-term goals are to, of course, increase our retention rates, our graduation rates, as well as our transfer rates and our students being able to enter the workforce or re-enter the workforce, depending on their situation, and gaining meaningful employment in the areas and programs in which they have studied and gotten their degrees or certificates. So anything and everything that we can do to achieve those goals and make sure that that mission continues to be fulfilled, we will do. It is our intent to be assertive and move forward as strongly as possible in making this transition to where students have dedicated navigators, dedicated student success specialists, and student success teams in place that they know, are familiar with, and they trust to help them do the work outside their classrooms to move forward on the trajectory and the academic path that they need to towards finishing their certificates and finishing their programs in a way that's cost efficient, that is efficient in a timely manner so that they are able to achieve their goals in a quick way. Thank you for your time. I look forward to being able to continue to meet virtually with you all in different groups and departments, divisions, and to listen and hear your ideas of how we can continue to collaborate and make all of this work as best as possible for our students, but also for our institution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew. Up next, I'd like to welcome to the podium Dr. Gavin O'Connor, and he's going to talk about Canvas Gradebook and attendance.
Hey everybody, glad to have you back. Would love to say glad to see you all, but can't do that. I just wanted to provide some information on attendance, as I usually do, and give you some ideas of kind of what's happening. I know there's been a lot of changes that have been occurring, and I'm hopeful that this is one that will be easy and beneficial to you. We had started all this well before everything happened, and so it kind of had to change our timelines a little bit, but we were hopeful and we're going to be able to get our new attendance module started this fall. We were wanting to have a little bit more of a soft rollout during the summer. We were able to do that just a little bit, but we did get a little bit of feedback that way, and then this fall we'll start with this new module. So what I want to do, I have just a few slides I want to bring up so that kind of walk through couple of high points. And then I also want to emphasize that there are training sessions tomorrow through the Center for Innovation that you can sign up for, or you can just log into. So if we'll pull that up, and then we'll get started. Okay, so first of all, just want to emphasize again that Pinnacle, our old gradebook, is not available. It's not something that we have anywhere now. That company was not able to provide the support that we needed, and we were having some support issues that way. So that's what really started this whole process. And so with that, what we're able to do, we have this product, which basically we're just going to call Canvas Gradebook. It is a different company outside of Canvas, but it integrates with it fully. And so that is what we're going to be looking at. So as I'm talking about this, really I'm looking and talking about the seated classes are the main ones that I'm going to be using this module for. And so with seated classes, we've seen this in some of the provost notes that Dr. McGrady sent out, that attendance is going to be extremely important this semester. As you know, it's always extremely important, but this time it's going to be even more important for the fact that we are going to be able to utilize some of that to help with tracking, and if we have any kind of outbreak or anything like that, we can utilize that. But we are talking about the seated classes here, and so in seated classes, one thing that we need to really be thinking about is daily attendance is mandatory. And so I know that a lot of people will take attendance on a piece of paper, put it in a pile, and maybe on Friday when they get around to it, they put that in. We need to start working away from that. We need to really start doing it in the system every day as we're in class. So just kind of keep that in mind. Online classes, we're still going to be determining that attendance like we always have. It's going to be based on class participation. That may look a little different this time with our seated classes as well, doing some online things. So don't get those too confused, but we can work through any of those. The other thing to keep in mind, the criterion for administrative withdrawal is still in effect. So even though we are going to work with students as much as possible and do everything that we can, if we do not see students that are in the courses and participating and attending like we're working with them towards, for those 14 consecutive calendar days, we do still need to do the administrative withdrawal. I will tell you also that we have we're going to change a little bit, and lots of changes with me here, but we're going to change a little bit the process of how we administrative withdrawal. It's actually going to be found inside of the area where we submit grades. I will be sending out information on that as soon as it is available and let everybody know how that works, but just wanted to kind of throw that out there. Also, there is some additional information, and all the information that kind of relates to this is found on the website, and I have it listed here for you, and we'll send that out also in communication in some of my emails. So again, just to really kind of work you through this real quick, last Tuesday, I sent out an email that provided basically all the instructions that you would probably need to be able to do any of the grading or any of the attendance taking that we have with this module. And so if you did not get that email, I'm sure I'll be sending that information out again, but if you did not get that specific email, please let me know and I'll send that to you. So in your Canvas site, over on the left-hand side, we have that list of things, and somewhere in that, everybody's going to look a little bit different as far as what they have there. Attendance is going to be found somewhere on there. That is the link that will take you to the attendance module. I want to run through, and again, as you read through the instructions and you go to the trainings and everything that you want to, you'll be seeing all this, but when you pull it up, and everybody this summer has said that it's pretty self-explanatory as to how it works and everything, so that's been great. But we have provided these different attendance status designations, and I just want to run through them really quick so that everybody is aware. The first one, obviously, present on site. That means that they have walked into your classroom. Present offsite is going to be those individuals that maybe you're working with that they are out of class right now because of, you know, being sick or whatever, but you're still working with them, they're doing things, and you're able to actually designate their present. A lot of this too may be through email, so kind of keep that in mind as well, that if they're working with you that way, and you know that they are actively participating in the class and maybe not just coming in, then that's what that present offsite. We also have the ability, if you are utilizing Zoom, that you can set that up and attendance can be taken through Zoom, and that's where this will actually be designated if they are in there. Obviously, absent is just those that you have no idea why they're not there, but they just aren't in class. And then we have several other variations of absent. We have absent college excused. This one is there for any time you may have a student that is working with, say, Title IX issues, and the Title IX office has contacted you to work with them this way. They are still absent, but there is a reason, and it's been designated by the college that they should be checked off that way. Absent college activity, we won't see probably a lot of these, but occasionally we'll have students that will leave class for, say, Skills USA. And so that's what you can utilize that. They are gone, but they are gone because of a college activity. Military leave, obviously, is for that. And then absent by the sending school. We do have a lot of college or a lot of high school students that are taking classes, not just through the Career Center, but other courses. And sometimes, say we have a snow day, but we're here, we're having classes, but the sending school cancels, we might want to designate it as that. Then we have the canceled college closed, so we're not having classes, or canceled because the instructor was not able to make it. And then tardy and left early are ones that you can designate as well. Withdrawn are ones that you shouldn't have to designate, but are going to show up already if the student has previously withdrawn the course. The other nice thing about this company that we're working with is they have been very receptive to any of our needs. They did not originally have a seating chart, and in talking with them, they said, sure, I think we can do that. And they were able to get this together and work with us to have a seating chart available. I know everybody, a lot of people had requested that. And so basically, again, you can see it here. You can take attendance through it like we did with Pinnacle. And if you need any help in setting it up, again, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's set up on a grid system. So you can pull students over into those locations where they're seating. Again, a seating chart's very beneficial. We probably will not be using that necessarily for any kind of contact tracing or anything like that. So it's how you need to utilize it, not anything that we as a college are demanding. So like I said, we do have the ability through Zoom to take attendance. And the one thing there, I'm not going to get into the details of it, but the instructions are, again, within the ones that I sent out. The one thing that you do need to understand, though, is that the only way to utilize the Zoom attendance module is with a professional license. And sometimes people don't even know which one they have. The best way to describe it is if you have Zoom, but when your meetings get shut off at 40 minutes, you do not have a professional license. So if you need one of those, you can contact IT. We do have a large number of those. They are somewhat limited though. So if you're not going to be using Zoom, then, and especially for, you know, these kind of things in that manner, it would be best to just kind of keep that personal license that you're using. But if you do need to do it for attendance taking and things like that, you will need to get a professional license. And then the last thing I want to talk about is the gradebook outside of the attendance aspect of it. Gradebook, again, is very important for, again, now moving to more of the online side especially, so that that information can be looked at and found out if we're looking at attendance for these online students. So it's very, very important to keep this updated. The other thing is that the gradebook is extremely important to keep updated. If you as an instructor are not able to be in class and teach, if you get so sick that you have to be out and someone has to take over your class, please have that gradebook updated so that the students and the person taking over can continue on. The other thing that I find very helpful is to arrange your gradebook by due dates. It's not specifically going to tell us exactly when people have done things, but it's much easier to, I found in all the attendance stuff that I've done, it's much easier to find that last time a student participated when it is arranged by due dates, because typically that's going to be kind of the structure of the class and how it's going along. So you don't have to, but I just highly recommend arranging it by due dates. So that is the end of my presentation there. If you have any questions, please contact me. Again, you'll be receiving a lot of emails from me, I know. But any questions you have, I am there by phone, by email. I help a lot of people. We work through a lot of scenarios, which I'm assuming we will have a ton of different types of scenarios this semester. So just let me know and we're there to help you. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, Gavin. A lot of change, definitely. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Julie Coltharp, mask, no mask. And the Center for Academic Innovation has been undergoing a lot of change as well. Last Saturday, we had over 170 adjuncts and guests join us for the annual Adjunct Educators Conference. And then also, many of you completed the Preparing to Pivot course over the summer, and we had over 259 faculty successfully complete that. So we're very excited about that, and we were able to do that with CARES funding. Those resources will remain available, so they aren't going anywhere. If you weren't able to attend the class, please let us know and we'll get you added in there. Actually, you can self-enroll yourself and have access to these resources, which are actually good for anyone, whether you teach online, hybrid, seated, new or veteran instructor. There's some good information out there and a one-stop shop for some of those resources that you may or may not need later this semester. Also, I wanted to let you know about the professional development calendar. You saw an email from HR earlier this week. And that has changed a little bit. We still have one calendar for the entire college. So we're excited to partner with them on that. You'll also see we have several professional development offerings already loaded. A lot of those start tomorrow. But check back on this calendar often because we'll be adding things periodically. So what you see today, there will be other things added throughout the semester. We are taking a little bit of a different approach with professional development through the center, and we're providing a new service, which is a one-on-one CHI consultation. And that just allows us to meet you wherever you are. You can schedule at your convenience a consultation with one of our staff. We'll just explore whatever topics or questions you may have. And it's individualized to meet your needs, 30 minutes, an hour, whatever you need. You can find that form on our website. And we can also schedule those for after hours and on the weekend. So if you have a conflict or something, we're happy to get with you at your convenience. Also, speaking of after hours, we will be extending our Zoom service extra hours. We're not doing a lot of walk-ins downstairs right now just because of social distancing and that lab space is so tight, but we are on Zoom every day, all day, and we've got extended hours starting this weekend to help you if you need anything to get your class ready to go for Monday. So come by virtually and see us and we'll be happy to help you. And you can also reach us by email and phone as well, or pop your head in the door and say hi. But just want to make you aware of those changes that we'll primarily be doing virtual support. And a lot of our folks that you may be looking for may be on other calls, but we definitely want to welcome you back and see your smiling faces. It's not been the same without you. I also wanted to make you aware of our Zoom web conferences resource page. This is one thing that if you are going to be using Zoom, there's lots of resources out here to get started, and we've got the teaching angle to this. If you're just getting started or a veteran user, there's lots of links here. IT also has a Zoom support page as well, and they'll be handling the technical support, those pro licenses, and they'll also be the ones assisting you with any physical classroom support. So if you encounter anything in your Zoom classroom, if you're going to be using it synchronously or even asynchronously in the classroom, please reach out with IT as your initial point of contact, and they'll help you with that. Also, there's been some changes with our staff. So Matt Harris is actually transitioned. He now joins Matthew Simpson with institutional research. So you have two Matts upstairs, but we retaliated. We now have two Jennifers, so it's all working out lovely. We have Jennifer Marshall Hoggett, who some of you may recognize, who is with IT. She is now in our office and is doing some frontline support. She'll be the smiling face you see when you come to our door. And so we're excited to have her. And we also have Jennifer Whalen. She is joining us as an instructional development specialist. So she'll be working with both the Canvas support side and the instructional development projects. So she's kind of going to be a jack of all trades, but this is day 6 for her. So she's getting a crash course right at the right time of the semester. So if you have a chance, reach out and say hello to them. Also, in other news, some of you may recall at the Innovation Showcase last fall, Jared Durden presented a proposal about a lab for faculty to record videos. We're excited to say that thanks to CARES funding and the support of administration, we will be continuing with plans. We'll be launching the Instructional Media Lab probably sometime next month. And in it, there will be a 66-inch light board. We are really excited about that. There's also going to be a one-button studio type recording system in there. So now it's just up to Thomas and Philip to make sure it all fits in the room. We're a little tight, but they're installing acoustical tiles on the walls as we speak, and the equipment is on order. So look for the KAI newsletter and future updates on the progress of that project, but we're really excited to have that. All right, well, at this point, I would like to welcome Dr. McGrady back to the podium for her closing remarks.
Before we close out this morning's session, I would like to give just a special welcome to some of our newest faculty that we have here at OTC, and actually some of them have been with us for a little while, but still I guess we'll technically classify them as new. Chad Veely in our precision machining technology program, Russ Murphy in heating, refrigeration, and air, Stephanie Worsham in our Associate of Science and Nursing program. All of them started in January with us. Laura Winger in Occupational Therapy Assistant, Kyle McKee in Aviation, Kyler Gray in Automotive, Gavin Harnstrom in our Paramedicine, formerly EMT Paramedic program, Jacqueline Corley in Computer Information Science, Shelby Gannott, not new to OTC, previously in the Tutoring and Learning Center, but now is teaching in our math department, one of our math faculty. Candace White in Dental Assisting. Hope Brooks Levin, also not new to OTC. She's been with us for quite a while in creative services and just recently moved into faculty in graphic design technology. Rick McLean in electrical. Sarah Stewart in our nursing program, our practical nursing program in Lebanon. So please welcome them warmly, make them feel at home. This is, for some of them, going to be their first semester teaching. And so if you'll think back to whenever that was your first semester teaching and what a disaster that ended up being sometimes, please give them all the support that you can. And I do wish you just a really great semester. And like I said, hang on, we'll get through it. Everything will be fine. And just know that we are here to support you. I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Julie, who will talk about the academic town hall that's coming up here in just a few minutes.
Thank you, Dr. McGrady. And thank you to our panelists and each one of you in attendance today. We will be taking a short break, but the academic town hall will begin at 10:40. And you can use the same link, so there's no reason to log out, but we'll resume at that time. If you submitted a question in advance, we have those here and those will be addressed. If you still have questions, there's still time to submit those in the chat. You can do that during this break time or also once the program begins, but we'll resume at 10:40. Thank you very much and have a great semester. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's academic town hall meeting. My name is Julie Coltharp, and we're delighted to have you with us virtually. We'll be using Zoom webinar this morning, and so if you weren't in our former session, this works a little bit differently than the normal Zoom does. You're automatically muted, so in order to ask a question, you'll need to use the chat feature. There's still time to ask chat questions throughout the presentation, so please submit your questions. I also want to let you know the session is being recorded, and I would like to thank our panelists for their participation in advance this morning. Now I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Tracy McGrady.
Thank you all. I'll go ahead and start by just giving you a rundown of who the panelists are so you know who is available to answer questions this morning. Of course, Dr. Julie Coltharp is here, our Dean of of Online and Faculty Development. Gavin O'Connor, Assistant Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs. Megan Weaver, our Dean of Academic Services. Lance Renner, Dean of General Education. Sherry Taylor, Dean of Allied Health. Robin Gordon, Dean of Technical Education. Dusty Childress, who is Executive Dean of the Education Centers. Drew Aberle, Dean of Academic and Student Affairs at Richwood Valley. Ocki Haas, who is our Director, or our Chief Human Resources Officer. I always have to think about that. Philip Arnold, who is our Director of Instructional Support. And Danny Gutierrez, who is our Assistant Vice Chancellor for Administrative Services. So that's who is available today. We did get the questions in advance, so I want to go ahead and address, and some of you are submitting questions through chat. That's great, we'll get to them as we can. The first question that we received, this was via email, has mainly to do, and I can address this just kind of globally because we got a few questions related to this. What to do if, for instance, you have a child who is experiencing symptoms, or maybe their classroom is quarantined, something like that, and what the process would be. The main thing that you would need to do is you would need to, of course, contact your supervisor, your department chair, program director, let them know what's going on. If you are told to quarantine by the Springfield-Greene County Health Department or one of the other health departments in the area where you live, then of course you would be required to do that. If you can teach still remotely, that's fine for you to do that. If you do become ill and you're too ill, then that's something, of course, we at the college will take care of that, finding a replacement for you to fill in while you are sick. So that's really the protocol if you should happen to have a child who is sick or that you need to stay home with, really just kind of in general, the way you would handle it any other year outside of a pandemic. You would just call in and tell us you can't be here. And like I said, if you are told to quarantine by a health department, then you would be expected to do that until they release you from that quarantine, and we would just have to manage it. A lot of this is just going to be case by case, quite frankly. So hopefully that answers that question. There was another question about if a student has a young child experiencing COVID symptoms, it would be the same thing. They have to stay home, care for that child, and you know, if they are told to quarantine, then it would be the same process. So here we have a question. If a student shows up to class and says they cannot wear a mask for medical reasons, what is the protocol? And then the same question for evening classes. So anybody who shows up to class and says they have some sort of a medical issue, you would refer them to Disability Support Services. And Dr. Weaver was on earlier, talked about that process. We are not making exceptions for medical conditions. We are finding out alternate ways to serve that student. And it could be that if, for instance, it's a class where there is no option for a remote option, we might look at different types of masks that maybe they could wear, but there will not be an exception made in a case like that. So that's the protocol, is to send them to disability support. They may try to show you documentation. That's not your job to vet that. They cannot be in the class until they have a mask on. So that is the protocol. And the same thing would go for evening classes as well. Let's see, just to double check, seating charts are not required for seated classes. They are not required for seated classes. I think they're a good idea, just so that we do know if we do have a positive case in a class who was in close proximity, but they are not a requirement. I know a lot of you like the seating chart function and you've used it in Pinnacle, and that was one of the things you were sad about whenever we went to this other attendance platform. So use it because it's there. We do have that capability still. So let's see, what material is the free OTC mask made of? I'm bad at this. And how many layers does it have? It's multiple layers. I would say it's cotton. I don't know. You in the room? You in the room? You in the room that have it on? Like I said, I'm bad at this. It's cotton for sure, and it does have multiple layers. I can tell that. I would say probably 2 layers. I'm guessing. But you can get one of those at the bookstore, or if you're at another location, when the bookstore comes to your location, you can get it. You can pick one up there as well. What other questions? Because I'm not. Is there? I can't see it.
It should show withdrawn.
Oh, okay. This was the question about the new attendance module. If a student is withdrawn, do we have to select withdrawn every session thereafter? No, it should show that the student has been taken out of the class, and you shouldn't have to do that. Let's see here. Do we need to wear a mask in your office if you share an office with another faculty member? I think that's something that you need to work out with your office mate. I'll give you an example. In the academic affairs suite, where we have 7 of us or so all in that space, we are all in that space together all the time. And so when we visit each other's offices, we typically don't wear the mask, as long as we're in that suite. Every now and then, if I know I'm going to be in somebody's office for more than 15 minutes, then I will go ahead and put the mask on. But I would say work that out with your office mate where you both feel comfortable. And again, just look at the mask as really a sign of respect for other people and being kind. And so if you have an office mate that says, yeah, I'd really rather you put it on, then I think you should put it on. But certainly if you're outside your own office, you definitely need to have it on. Will we receive training on how to use the new equipment in the classroom for Zoom? That is something, actually, I'll let Julie address that.
Classroom Zoom training is being conducted by the IT help desk. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and submit a ticket or call them or email them at helpdesk@otc.edu. Also, if you are teaching from another location, check with the support staff there and they can get you set up with training for that specific room.
Do you mind if I add something to that real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just a reminder, I think it was Dan that asked that question. Alan taught that way this entire summer, so you can reach out to him too as well, and he should be able to help you if IT is gonna take a little bit of time to get back to you. But Alan, JC, Richard Turner, several folks, the Fritz, Team Fritz also taught that way, so you can reach out to any of those folks.
Great, thank you. And yeah, and the feedback that we got from those who did teach remotely using Zoom this summer was really good. I think they have some kind of good tips to share in terms of some things that worked really well and some things to watch out for if you're going to use it. But they were generally pretty positive about it. Let's see. What if you have a student who is wearing a mask that is purposely not effective, such as mesh? That's a great question. What I would do in a case like that is just explain to them that it's not a mask that we would, that if it's too porous or whatever, offer them the mask, or send them to the mask location wherever it is that you are teaching. And I believe your deans are communicating those locations out to you of the places that students can be sent to get a mask if they show up to your class without one. but just tell them, you know, hey, that's just not really the type of mask. It's clearly not going to be effective. Let's get you one that is effective. And again, if they fight back too much on that, then you wouldn't want to call security at that time. Oh, I'm looking here. Jared, what? I'm sorry. Oh. Are we required to keep students 6 feet apart in classrooms and labs? No, you're not required to do that. If you can do that in your classroom, that's fine. We're really relying on what we know and what we have learned throughout this with masking, and how valuable and how effective masking really does seem to be. I mean, there's more and more evidence coming out about that. So obviously we would want you to try to keep your students as far apart as you can, but as long as everybody is masked, then we feel comfortable with not having that 6 foot requirement in classrooms and in labs. But if you can do it, you can do it as well. And I think I'm not seeing maybe some of these. Hi, I'm wondering about masks and food and drink. Oh wait, hang on. It disappeared on me here. Oh, there we go. Oh, okay, sorry. Martha's question, I missed it. I'll get to the other one. Is there a list of all the classrooms that have been equipped with the Zoom capabilities? I think just talk with your dean. Your dean will know which classrooms. I don't even have that list. I have no idea. I mean, we can get it, but talk with your dean, because your dean will know which classrooms have that capability. Is there a standard as top the quality of the masks? Oh, is there a standard for that? Not necessarily. I mean, obviously, if you know that a student is presenting, yes, with like something that's really loose mesh, and you can, I mean, they're trying to make a statement and be a smart aleck about it. I mean, that's obviously, you can use your good judgment. But beyond that, you know, we haven't set any standard for what the mask should be or what it should look like. Again, we're going with CDC guidelines and their masking guidelines. And so that's kind of where we stand. So we have not set that standard as a college. Okay, and then I'm wondering about masks and food and drink. Specifically, I'm concerned about different expectations in the classroom. So I would really encourage students not to eat and drink in the classroom. Obviously, if they're in a common area, and actually I might let Danny talk about this. Danny, are you available?
I am available.
Okay, you want to talk about that?
I mean, we haven't gone on a hard stance on no food or drink in the classroom, but I would not allow students. And if I was teaching CETA courses, I wouldn't allow students to eat or drink in a class, because then all they're going to do is they're just going to say, well, I'm drinking my water, and they're just going to set it on their desk and just keep their mask off the whole time. So I would say no to food and drink in the classroom. That's just me, though. But I don't think it's a good idea, because that kind of defeats the whole purpose.
And so in terms of you know, like down like in a cafe or outside Starbucks or something like that, yes, students can obviously take off their mask to eat or drink in those areas, but I'm kind of like Danny. I don't know that I would encourage it in a classroom or allow it in a classroom, just, you know, for the time being. Could we use a face shield while lecturing instead of a face mask? No, you can't. Unfortunately, you have to use both. Well, you don't have to use both, but if you are using a face shield, you have to also use the mask because of the fact that the face shield is open on the bottom, and so therefore it doesn't contain the virus. It's just too open, and there's just too much spread that can happen that way. One of my adjuncts asked this in my department meeting, is there a dress code for masks? Okay, all right, let's see. Oh, what's on the mask? Well, I mean, you know, we have standards at the college in terms of, I would think it would be the same as it is for, you know, like you can't wear a t-shirt that has, you know, something profane on it or something like that. So, I mean, you know, I think just kind of use that standard to apply to the mask as well. I don't know if that totally answers the question, but I mean, not really a dress code. I mean, if they want to have a political slogan on it or a Black Lives Matter or something like that, I think that's fine. Just because that's within our student code of conduct policy that we have about attire. So let's see here. Could there be an example of masks put on our website that is acceptable and the ones that are not acceptable? This would allow us to point to that site. That's a good idea. I think what we can do is maybe clarify it on the website related to maybe the question about mesh, things, you know, that are too porous, materials that are too porous and that sort of thing. That's a good suggestion. We can do that. What about temperature checks? Can we do those in our classes? Danny, do you want to address that maybe?
Yeah, I can address that. So we aren't doing temperature checks at entrances or anything like that. But if you want to do it in your classroom, we're not going to tell you that you can't, but that's going to have to be something that you supply for yourself. We don't have thermometers to hand out to everybody for their classes, unfortunately. And I don't think kind of what we've been seeing, the temperature checks, while they're good, it doesn't fully show the whole picture of what's going on with them, because we did temperature checks throughout the summer for some of you that came in, and a lot of people, when they leave their car, they're over the 100-degree temperature, and it just added a lot of frustration for people. And while that's not the reason that we're doing it, it's just we don't have enough thermometers that we can acquire to do it at all of the locations and do temperature checks everywhere. But if that's something that you feel that you want to do, you're more than welcome to.
Great, thank you. Next question, is OTC officially taking a stance on gators and the fact that they aerosolize? We aren't at this point, and this is something that we did consult with the Springfield Greene County Health Department on, and also relating to CDC guidelines for masks. There was one study that's been done that suggested that gators were not effective. And there have been some questions about the study, very limited study. So therefore, the CDC has not changed their guidance on this, and the Springfield Greene County Health Department, as a result, has not changed their guidance that we're still going to allow gators at this point until we have more evidence to suggest that they are, you know, not as effective as the other types of masks. What about pictures in the attendance arena? Some students load pictures that are obviously not themselves. I'll let Gavin take that.
So I think at this point, no, they aren't able to put in an avatar. The pictures from, and I can check on this too to make sure, but the way we originally set it up with the company and how we wanted it to pull through was from the pictures from their colleague files, so the ones that they take for their official picture. So I will check again, but they shouldn't be able to do the avatar thing like they can, I think, in Canvas currently. So.
Okay, will classrooms be sanitized between class sessions? Who takes care of that? They will not be done between class sessions because we don't have enough time typically between class sessions, but I'll let Danny address the cleaning protocols that have been put in place in response.
Yeah, so unfortunately, there's just not enough time and manpower to clean every classroom in between every class. If we did, we'd have to break up, it'd take an hour to clean every classroom in between each day. But we're confident with our cleaning procedures that we do. Every morning, our custodial staff comes in at 4 in the morning and cleans the whole college before people get there. So and part of that is cleaning supplies that last longer than others through Buckeye, our provider of those supplies. There's actually cleaning solutions that will are antimicrobial and actually clean and keep off the virus throughout the day, and it's all approved in that arena. As far as cleaning supplies, we are going to have aerosol sprays. spray bottles that you're able to wipe down things if you have some concerns throughout the day. And of course, if there's a big mess or something like that that we need to come and clean up, custodial will be able to come and do that. And then as far as ventilation goes within the buildings, we are actually increasing the capacity of pulling in the buildings. It actually turns over the air 24 times throughout the day. And we've replaced and are continuing to replace our filters on a much more frequent basis than we normally are required to or normally would in general. So we feel confident with our cleaning procedures. We are also social distancing tables and chairs in atriums and common areas. There's going to be flyers up all over the place that tell people keep social distancing, keep your masks on, please do not move tables and chairs, etc.
Another question, what if you have 3 or 4 hour classes? I'm assuming that means like what types of protocols, what would be different in a lengthier class time? There really wouldn't be. It's all the same protocols regardless of the length of time that the class meets. Are Starbucks and cafe going to be open? Yes, Starbucks is open. So it opened, when did it open? Monday, open Monday. So Starbucks is open. Cafe 101 will be open, but it's only for grab and go. And I don't know, Danny, do you want to add any more to that as well?
Yeah, we are going to be open. There's not going to be any seating within the cafe. So everything's going to be grab and go. We've tried to distance things as much as possible so students can go through there. We're going to have some more options in the cafe. There's going to be, we're working with Yoshi Jen and working on the Chinese food menu, having more sushi options. Also, we are implementing delivery this year. So you can have food actually delivered to your office or wherever you're at through the cafe. So that's something that we're starting this year as well.
Great, thank you. Are OTC branded masks available at the bookstore? Yes, they are. Can they be embroidered with our last name? We don't do that here, but I mean, if you wanted to take it to a place that does that embroidery, then I'm assuming that would be fine.
We may be able to do embroidery in the bookstore. I know we have an embroidery machine, but I have not asked about the mask. I don't know about that.
Okay. All right. We could maybe find out more about that.
Yeah.
What about a Confederate flag mask? I think, I don't know that we've addressed that specifically, but again, I would go back to the OTC's policy on dress for students. I don't know if any of the other panelists happen to be looking at that, or have you had any discussion about that in any of your?
We've talked about it a bit in our area and kind of landed on if anything becomes disruptive to the learning environment, then we would probably do something about it.
Okay.
And there might be a conversation with the student.
Right, exactly. So that was Dr. Weaver, and she just said that in their areas that they, disability support, the tutoring services, testing, that kind of thing, that what they've talked about is as long as it doesn't become disruptive to the learning environment, then, it would be allowable. And again, I would just fall back on it. I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me, but what OTC's policy is about that sort of thing. But I'm assuming it's very similar to that because, the main thing is we just don't want it to become a disruption to what's happening in the classroom. I believe Missouri State is not allowing food or drink. I think in the case where a student may have a medical condition like diabetes, they should be allowed to step out of the room. Oh, absolutely. Yes. If you have a student who reveals to you that they are diabetic and they need to eat or drink something, absolutely, they would, let them leave the room and let them do that. Let's see here. What's that?
The picture, George has a couple of things there on the pictures and attendance.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Gavin just said that the question about the pictures that come up in Canvas in the attendance module, he said he would look at it and look into it a little bit more and then get back to you about that. Does OTC consider bandanas sufficient masking? Well, right now the CDC does, and so we are still allowing bandanas to be used as masks. I believe, I'm right about that, aren't I, Danny? I'm pretty sure. If that's,
Yeah, I believe the bandanas are okay still, but we'll follow up with that. We're using the CDC guidelines, so a lot of what our website does is point people to the CDC website for masks instead of having it just directly on our website of everything, because that way when things change, we can always direct people to the website.
right. Yes, thank you. Will the tables already be separated as far as possible in our classrooms? No, they won't, unless that, I do believe that maybe it's some of the, it kind of depends on where you're teaching. I think maybe it's some of the campuses and centers where they're have been able to do that with a little more ease, that they have been doing that. But otherwise, I would just say encourage students to sit, as far apart as they can in your classrooms. Let's see. Oh, okay, and this is just kind of, let's see. The OTC website, facial coverings definition includes scarf, bandana, gaiter, and handkerchief. If the definition says, as it is now, students will come Monday to class using any of these, could you please be more specific? Okay, I will look at the website and see. Again, we're just relying on guidance from the Centers for Disease Control, and that's where we are taking our guidance from. And also, of course, from our local health department. So we'll look at that and see, if we can maybe try to tighten up some of that language so that people understand, maybe what's not acceptable to wear. Should we dismiss class by rows or something to help ease crowding? Likewise, are we doing anything to avoid crowding in the hallways? You don't need to dismiss class by rows or anything like that. Again, just talk to your students about trying to stay away from each other. We're not necessarily doing anything in the hallways to avoid crowding. And here's the other thing to try to think about. Remember that, as Dr. Higdon indicated, and I've told you in the provost notes emails, online enrollment as of this morning is at 47%. And we are down pretty substantially. I can't remember the percentage, but here on the Springfield campus. So you're going to see far less students. There were probably going to be, the last time I checked, it's around 1,200 students less on the Springfield campus at least, and then even more than that at our centers, proportionally anyway, by percentage at our other centers and campuses, just because their enrollment is lower anyway. So you're not going to see the big crowds of people typically that you have seen in the past. So kind of, try to keep that in mind too. There are still going to be busy times of the day, but again, we just have far fewer students that are going to actually be here physically. What else? I think that's all we have. Does anybody else have a question? Can we require no food or drink in class yet be able to drink in class ourselves? 2 hours of talking is a long time to talk without drinking. Agree. I think as long as you keep it, obviously I wouldn't set the big gulp up on the up on the table, but if you can kind of keep it hidden, kind of periodically pull it out, take a drink, whatever you need to do, I think that's totally fine. And yes, you can, as long as your students aren't talking as much as you are, you're certainly within your rights to just tell them no food or drink in the classroom. So anything else? Keep in mind too, some of your questions I think would probably be good if you have the time tomorrow to tune into John Mooney, who's the Assistant Director of the Springfield Greene County Health Department. He'll be doing that town hall tomorrow at 10:30 that you should have received information about earlier this week from HR. And so some of these questions I think will be good for him. We have been in pretty much daily communication with them for the last several months, and they know our plans. They've signed off on our plans. They feel comfortable with what we're doing. That doesn't mean that there is no risk to anyone, because of course there is, but they feel pretty comfortable with it. But I think some of these questions maybe he could answer even a little better than I can in terms of, how they came to their decision making and the protocols that they're following. So will the east parking lot stay closed? Yes, it is. It will be closed. We're going to start digging that thing up this fall. So it will stay closed. Yeah, but we do have the new one. Remember, we've got the new one. We tore down the old, I think it was an old church building down there. So we do have the new. I think there's 100 and, Danny, help me, 150 spaces.
Yeah, we put in, I think it's 145 new spaces in that parking lot. And just to clarify, I believe that parking lot will be open for as long as we can keep it open.
Oh, okay.
There's no lights in it, so we will be shutting the parking lot down, I believe, like around 5 or 6 o'clock, and asking people not to park. We'll put cones up and kind of put people out that way. Yeah, we kind of a little insider baseball for you all. We're going to be going out to bid for the Center for Advanced Manufacturing in September, and construction should start in November. But I think at least for the first couple weeks or so, we're going to try and keep the lot open. But that may change. It just all depends on the contractors and all the other site work that has to be done. Because for those of you who have been on campus, we've been having gas lines relocated. We've had power lines relocated. So there may be things that come up where we have to shut it down.
Here's another question. Can we offer students the chance to watch lectures via Zoom if class size seems large and constrictive? Yes, this is something that, one of the reasons that we have put the Zoom technology into so many classrooms across the system is that we wanted to give you all that flexibility. Some of you aren't going to want to mess with it. You're not going to want to offer that option to your students. That's totally fine. Some of you will like that option and want to offer it to your students. Here's the thing. The only thing you can't do is dictate to your students that they have to participate that way. You can offer it to them as an option. Tell them that you're going to be in the classroom Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 9 o'clock or whenever your class is scheduled, just like normal. But if they want to participate through Zoom and that's something that you want to offer to them, that's completely fine. Talk with your department chair and your deans, however, because we want to make sure that we're coordinated in that approach. But that's kind of my stance on it. I'm fine with that. I think it's a great option for students. I'm interested to see how many students will take us up on it. I think it'll be kind of an experiment to see how many, will really want to participate that way. But I think that we'll have some takers for sure on that. So, any other questions? And then also remember, we will have just the college-wide town hall for all employees. We'll have that tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock. So John Mooney at 10:30 in the morning, and we will record that session and distribute it. However, I don't know if that'll be posted or what we plan to do with that. And then we have the college-wide employee town hall tomorrow at 3 o'clock. So you can participate. If you think of other questions between now and then you want to submit, we can certainly answer those then. But thanks for some of these suggestions that you gave us. We will go back and look at the website, make sure that the language there is as tight as we feel like it needs to be. It sounds like we could definitely do some clarification. So we'll go back and we will look at that too. So, all right. Well, then I guess we will sign off for now. If you think of other things, like I said, reach out. Don't suffer in silence. Reach out, and we'll get you the support that you need. So thank you all very much.